Welcome to 5 Minutes, your quick dive into the wide-ranging world of insurance, technology, and leadership. I'm Miguel Edwards, and I'll be your guide as we explore these topics that are transforming not just the insurance industry, but the business world at large. Along with sharing observations I've made over the span of my career in insurance, technology, and operations, I'll be chatting with some of the brightest minds in business and leadership. Whether you're a seasoned executive or a rising star, an industry expert, or just curious about how technology is revolutionizing insurance, this is your perfect spot for your weekly dose of insights. This is 5 Minutes. How does all of this work when it feels as though we are lacking so much from a data strategy as an industry and an individual carriers that I work with? How does it work?
That was, I would say, our biggest challenge. It all came down to data governance, data quality. Our data was all over the place, right? So how do you bring it all together? I mean, think about it as insurance carriers. You have multiple policy systems.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the nature of the beast, right?
Yep.
There's barely any ROI to migrate to singularity, right?
Yeah.
So how do you bring all that together? So key data strategy. It's critically important that you think about the foundation. Remember that digital cake I mentioned. Foundation is not just your infrastructure, your server storage network. It's your data architecture, right? How do you bring it all together? Do you need mastering, right? So you gotta start with your foundation. Just like any house that you live in, if you don't have a great foundation, it will crumble on you.
That's right.
CIOs like us that are dealing with decades of legacy, decades of these solutions, you got to think about, what am I doing with my data first? So I have singularity of source, right? And then you got to start thinking about not only the singularity of source, two-way, right? So your CRM solution, when people are updating it, how do you go back to your policy keeping systems, your data, right? And update that darn thing. So you don't have different sources inside your company. And that's the key challenge. So you got to really think through your data strategy.
100%, man. 100%. Pivot on you here to security. And I want to throw something at you and see if you agree. I'm a cybersecurity attack survivor, to the term, right? And there was a period of time, I want to say over the, from about 2020, maybe to 2023, where everything was all about cyber. And companies were putting the cyber strategy and elevating the CISO, and they're calling out cyber spend, cybersecurity spend. I'm starting to feel as though we're tailing back a little bit, and it's kind of going back into the infrastructure space where it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. Are you sensing that too?
Well, the answer is yes at a certain point, but I think it's a lot, at least in my case. Yeah, we did plateau, but because we did exactly what you said, for the first 3 years, we were pumping massive amounts of money in there, and I would say we got to a good spot. Can you get to a good spot in cybersecurity? I don't know. I lived in a paranoid world. That was the one thing that kept me up at night, right? And you were, like you said, a survivor. Right. It's not if, it's when you're going to get hit, right? So maybe what we're seeing is a plateau because of the massive millions of dollars of investment we've done in the past 3 years. And now we're kind of saying we're going to hold steady while we invest over here, right? That being said, if you built out a good cyber strategy, feel comfortable, then you could do that. We definitely did. In our cyber strategy, there's no such thing as a perimeter anymore. You and I both know it. With IoT, right? So you got to think of a layered approach, and that's what we did. We looked at it as like an onion, right? You had your perimeter defense, you had your geo defenses, you have your vulnerability management, identity access management. To me, education to your employees is, to me, the number one thing you got to do. Why? Because you could have all this wonderful technology and process and people, and it takes one click inside an email, and all of a sudden you're doomed, right? So not only did I mention all those layers is also incident response, because like you said, you're a survivor. You better have a good incident response plan. You better have good disaster recovery. You better have good business continuity plans in place, because it could happen. You better have good backups.
Thank you for joining this episode of 5 Minutes. If you've enjoyed our discussion, we'd love for you to share it with anyone else you think might find it interesting. Also, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on and hit that bell to stay on top of the game with our practical 5-minute episodes. We look forward to seeing you again next week.